found out my parents have had credit cards in my name for years and recently defaulted on all of them. I'm out $20,000 and now they want me to pay for their new car. He posted at first post on August 21, 2024. A few days ago, I decided to take the first step toward achieving one of my long-term goals, becoming a homeowner. I went through the process of getting pre-approved for a mortgage, something I had been planning for years. I've always been responsible with my finances, or so I thought. My financial history was relatively simple, with only one car loan that I had successfully paid off in full and one credit card that I always made sure to pay off completely every month. Given my straightforward credit profile and my dedication to maintaining good financial habits, I figured this process would be easy and relatively stress-free. But when I submitted my application, I was completely blindsided. My application wasn't just delayed or flagged for review, it was flat-out denied. The reason they gave was shocking. My credit score was an abysmal 535. At first, I thought there must have been some kind of error. A credit score of 535 seemed impossible, especially since I had always taken care to manage my credit responsibly. I knew I had to figure out what was going on, so for the first time ever, I checked my own credit report. That's when the true scope of the situation came crashing down on me. The report was a complete and utter mess. To my horror, I discovered multiple credit cards that I had never opened. In total, there were 6 credit cards listed under my name. Not only that, but these cards were riddled with missed payments. The situation was so dire that all 6 of these accounts showed significant late payments, and several of them were marked as more than 90 days overdue. Even worse, most of these accounts had already been charged off, meaning the credit card companies had written off the balances as bad debt, which usually happens when payments haven't been made in months. To add insult to injury, a couple of these accounts had already been sold to debt collectors, resulting in collection accounts being listed on my credit report. As I scrolled through the report, it became clear that this wasn't a recent issue. The accounts had been open for years, but everything seemed to take a turn for the worse around March, when the payments started falling behind significantly. It was evident that even if I hadn't gone through the mortgage pre-approval process, I would have eventually found out about this. All of these overdue accounts were about to come to a head, and it was only a matter of time before the damage became unavoidable. One detail on the report immediately caught my attention: the addresses associated with these credit card accounts. Every single one of them was tied to my parents' address. That's when I started to put the pieces together. I called my parents right away, hoping for some kind of explanation that would make sense of this nightmare. When I confronted them, their response left me speechless. They admitted to opening the accounts years ago, supposedly to help me build credit. According to them, they had been managing the accounts on my behalf for years, making payments without ever telling me about it. But earlier this year, my dad retired, and they decided they could no longer afford to make the payments on these accounts. That was when everything started to fall apart, leading to the missed payments, charge-offs, and eventual collections. As they explained this, I felt a wave of emotions: anger, betrayal, confusion. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These weren't my credit cards. I had never authorized them, never used them, and had no idea they even existed. When I told them as much, they agreed with me almost casually, as if this was no big deal. But instead of apologizing or showing any real remorse for what they had done, they shifted the responsibility onto me. They told me I would just have to negotiate with the creditors to pay off the accounts and repair my credit. As if that wasn't enough, they then had the audacity to ask me for help with their own financial problems. Specifically, they wanted me to start paying off their car loan, which they still have 4.5 years left on. They framed it as a way to take some of the stress off from their retirement, as though I should be responsible for their financial decisions after what they had just admitted to doing. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. I ended the conversation and haven't spoken to them since. At that moment, I realized how little regard they had for the consequences of their actions on my life. They had essentially stolen my identity and wrecked my credit, and now they wanted me to shoulder the burden of fixing their mistakes while also taking on their other financial obligations. Looking back, I can't believe I went so long without checking my credit report. That part is on me. If I had been more proactive, I might have caught this earlier and been able to address it before it spiraled out of control. But at the same time, I never had any reason to suspect that my own parents would do something like this to me. They never mentioned these accounts, never asked for my consent, and never gave me the slightest indication that anything was amiss. I trusted them completely, and they betrayed that trust in one of the worst ways possible. Now, I'm left with the daunting task of cleaning up this mess. I don't even know where to begin. The thought of calling each of these creditors and trying to explain the situation feels overwhelming. I know I'll have to dispute the accounts, potentially file a police report, and navigate the long and complicated process of repairing my credit. On top of that, I'll have to figure out how to protect myself from further financial damage, since I can no longer trust that my parents won't try something like this again. This whole situation has left me feeling drained and disillusioned. It's hard to describe the mix of emotions I'm experiencing: anger at my parents, frustration with myself for not catching this sooner, and anxiety about the long road ahead to fix my credit and regain some sense of financial stability. But more than anything, I feel a deep sense of betrayal. My parents were supposed to be the people I could rely on, the people who would always have my back. Instead, they put their own financial interests above my well-being and left me to deal with the fallout. Let's read some relevant comments before start next posted update. First comment was, copying this for every identity theft situation I see on here, since it seems to happen a lot, where you know who the person is who stole your identity. This is all information you can find in this sub and others. 1. Call the police. You're the victim of identity theft, plain and simple. It doesn't matter who did it or what your relationship is to them. They broke the law, now they have to face the consequences of their actions. 2. Freeze your credit. You want to make sure it doesn't happen again, take the proactive route of freezing your credit. 3. Monitor and track your credit. You need to be alerted if anyone tries opening a line of credit in your name. This gives you a way to do it for free and it shows your credit score. 4. Warn anyone else who might be a victim. This includes family members or anyone else whose social security number might be compromised by the thief. 5. Take the police report to the credit bureaus. Give them the report number when you dispute all of the accounts. Most of the time, that will be enough for them to take the accounts off of your credit. It's on the creditors themselves to prove the accounts are legitimately yours and the bureaus aren't going to get in the middle of it. A police report goes a long way in clearing up your credit. Don't take identity theft lying down, even if it's someone close to you. If you let them get away with it, get ready for 5 to 10 years of bad credit, collection agencies coming after you, lawsuits, etc. Your parents committed familial identity theft, which is, unfortunately, extremely common in the US. Your only real option is to call the police and follow the steps I laid out above. They clearly have no regard for your well-being. The fact that they now want you to pay their car payment is just adding insult to injury. Hey, we messed up your life for the next 7 to 10 years, can you give us some more money? But don't worry, we'll actually ask permission this time, also you aren't getting any of it back from us. Pretty please? He replied to first comment, I don't intend on paying for their car at all. I also don't intend on talking with them ever again. Second comment was, you aren't out anything. That is called fraud. You should go to the police and file a police report that you have credit cards on your credit report that you never opened. You can then dispute those accounts with the different credit agencies. You should also lock your credit. He posted an update on September 24, 2024, 1 month later. After my initial post, my first instinct was to simply pay off the credit cards. The thought of having this mess cleared up quickly and moving forward with my life was tempting. But something held me back. Why should I take responsibility for debts I never incurred? After some reflection and encouragement from others, I decided to take a different route. The very next day, I called the police and filed a formal report. It wasn't an easy decision. Reporting my own parents felt wrong on so many levels, but I knew I had to protect myself and set things right. Once the police report was filed, I got to work disputing every fraudulent account with all 3 major credit bureaus. The process was daunting. I had to gather documents, explain the situation in detail, and provide evidence that the accounts were not mine. Thankfully, within a relatively short period of time, progress was made. By the start of last week, 5 out of the 6 fraudulent credit cards had been removed from my credit report. Seeing those accounts disappear felt like a huge relief, a step toward reclaiming my financial stability. However, one account remained stubbornly unresolved. When I followed up on that particular dispute, I was shocked to learn that the credit card company had verified the account as valid. That response made no sense to me. It was literally impossible for the account to be valid since I had never opened it. Frustrated but determined, I sent the company's fraud department a copy of the police report, hoping this would finally resolve the matter. I'm still waiting for their final response, but I'm optimistic that it will be removed soon. Once that last account is gone, I expect my credit score to improve even further. It has already jumped by about 120 points, which feels like a small victory in this larger battle. If everything goes as planned, I'm hopeful it will increase by another 100 points or more once the final account is removed. Unfortunately, dealing with the credit bureaus and the police was only part of the ordeal. About 2 weeks ago, my parents were contacted by an investigator assigned to the case. According to the investigator, my parents refused to cooperate. They hung up on him when he tried to question them. Despite this, the case was referred to the state for further review. I was informed that, while my parents technically committed a felony by opening credit accounts in my name without my consent, these types of cases are rarely prosecuted. The investigator explained that the county generally prioritizes violent crimes, and even then, only the most severe cases are pursued. Additionally, because my parents live in a different state and the financial losses primarily affect the credit card companies rather than me directly, it's unlikely the companies will push for prosecution. Most of the time, he said, creditors either write off the debt or pursue civil lawsuits against the offenders instead of seeking criminal charges. Hearing this was bittersweet. On one hand, I felt some relief knowing that my parents wouldn't face the full weight of the law, even though they broke it. On the other hand, it was frustrating to realize that justice for this kind of betrayal often goes unaddressed. Still, I've chosen to focus on the things within my control, clearing my name, rebuilding my credit, and moving forward with my life. My relationship with my parents, however, has deteriorated completely. After the investigator contacted them, they left me a voicemail that lasted about 90 seconds. In it, they screamed at me, accusing me of trying to ruin their lives. They showed no remorse for what they had done and didn't even acknowledge the harm they caused me. Instead, they tried to turn the situation around, blaming me for their problems. They ended the voicemail by telling me it was time to grow up. Those words stung, not because I believed them, but because they showed just how little my parents understood or cared about the pain and chaos they had caused in my life. That voicemail was the final straw. I decided then and there that I was done talking to them. There's no repairing a relationship built on deceit and selfishness, and I can't allow myself to be dragged down by their choices any longer. Cutting off contact was a difficult decision, but I know it's the right one for my own well-being. I'm incredibly grateful for all the advice and support I received from others throughout this ordeal. It's been a long, stressful process, but I've learned a lot about the importance of standing up for myself and taking control of my financial future. While I still have some work to do before I can fully move on, I'm proud of the progress I've made and confident that better days are ahead. Let's read some comments before start latest posted update. First comment was, pay for their car? Not just no but hell no. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, OP. Second comment was, you aren't ruining their lives. You're making sure that they continue down the path they set themselves on. TBH, they should thank you. He posted an update on January 9, 2025, 3.5 months later. Today, I'm relieved to share that the last fraudulent credit card has finally been removed from my credit report. It feels like a long overdue victory after everything I've been through over the past few months. Even though I had to dispute this account again with the credit bureau, I noticed earlier this week that it had finally fallen off my report. With this last account gone, my credit score has actually improved beyond where it was before all of this chaos started. Seeing those numbers climb back up has been one of the few bright spots in an otherwise draining ordeal. While I've achieved some success on the credit repair front, the same cannot be said for holding my parents accountable in the legal sense. As I suspected, the county prosecutor ultimately decided not to press criminal charges against them. This decision, while disappointing, was not surprising. I had been warned from the start that cases like mine, where the financial harm falls largely on credit card companies rather than the individual, are rarely prosecuted, especially in counties that prioritize violent crimes or more severe offenses. That said, it seems karma may still catch up with my parents in other ways. Out of curiosity, I recently checked public records for the area where my parents live. To my surprise, I discovered that one of the credit card companies involved in the fraud has filed a civil lawsuit against them. The records show that they've already hired a lawyer to represent them, and the case is ongoing. The second hearing isn't scheduled until February, so it seems like they'll be dealing with the fallout of their actions for a while. Knowing that the financial institutions are taking legal action provides some small comfort, even if it doesn't directly impact me. What frustrates me most about this situation is the sheer audacity of my parents' choices. They not only stole my identity and left me to deal with the mess they created, but they also had the nerve to ask me to take over their car payments they couldn't afford themselves. And yet, somehow they found the money to hire a lawyer for this civil case. That hypocrisy infuriates me. It's a reminder of just how self-serving their actions have been from the beginning. They were willing to jeopardize my future and drag me down with them, but now they're scrambling to protect themselves when faced with consequences. As for my relationship with them, I've made the decision to maintain zero contact. I haven't spoken to them since the investigator first reached out to them, and I have no intention of ever doing so again. This entire ordeal has been a wake-up call for me, A harsh reminder that not everyone, even family, has your best interests at heart. Their betrayal cut deeper than anything I've experienced, and I know that keeping my distance is necessary for my own emotional well-being. Reflecting on everything that has happened, I've learned a valuable lesson. Always be vigilant about your financial health. If there's one thing I hope others can take away from my experience, it's the importance of regularly checking your credit reports. I spent years assuming everything was fine, only to find out the hard way that people, sometimes even those closest to you, can take advantage of your trust. Had I not applied for a mortgage and uncovered the fraudulent accounts when I did, who knows how much longer this could have gone on. I'm grateful to have made it through this ordeal with my finances, and my sanity, largely intact. Moving forward, I'm committed to protecting myself and staying on top of my credit. For anyone reading this, take it from me, check your credit reports regularly. You never know who might be out there trying to exploit your name and your financial reputation. Let's read some top comments. First comment was, "It's crazy how common this is." Second comment was, "You got any siblings who might be being used the same way?" Third comment was, "In addition to freezing your credit, please think about freezing check systems and the National Consumer Telecommunications and Utility Exchange." Thank you for listening the story to the end. If you enjoy our videos, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have a good day, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it and hit the notification bell icon to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.